Good evening. I'm Andre Haskett, and I'm a performing arts sophomore from Powder Springs, Georgia. I admit I have a highly enviable task tonight, but how do you adequately encapsulate the depth of Mr. Samuel L. Jackson? It can't be done, and it shouldn't, because for half a century he has lent his unrivaled abilities to an endless collection of films and collaborated with some of the greatest directors of modern film history. From stage to screen, Jackson's raw power, willful stillness, and deep emotional currents cut to the heart of an audience. His profound list of credits and characters capture his unparalleled work ethic and dedication to creativity. For young actors of any race or creed, Jackson's our North Star, a man of the utmost dignity, an actor of the highest caliber, and a superlative artist who doesn't recognize limitations. Let's take a look.
Wake up! Wake up, wake up, wake up! Up you wake, up you wake, up you wake, up you wake! Oh. What's my name? Wrong answer! What's my name? Honey, where is my super suit?
You're under arrest, Chancellor.
Looks like you're giving the orders now, Captain.
Go under your butt.
Starting today, you will play like winners, act like winners, and most importantly, you will be winners.
Who are you?
The President of the United States.
No one said this job's supposed to be easy.
Nobody said it's supposed to be that hard, neither. Got room for one more?
Ladies and gentlemen, Legend of Cinema Award honoree, Samuel L. Jackson. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you. So did you learn that speech or were you reading like a monitor or something?
A bit of both. A bit of both.
Good job.
Thank you so much.
All right. You know, this is kind of amazing and, you know, serendipitous in an interesting sort of way. I mean, I started my cinematic career in Georgia and learned a lot of my trade in the state also theatrically. So it's an amazing honor to be honored by, you know, SCAD. So thank you very much. I owe a lot of my success to Georgia, and I feel like, you know, a native son, and that you are honoring someone who is a particular native son of Georgia. So thank you very much. You know, it's been a great ride, and it's really amazing that I've come from the place that I started in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and reached the heights of, I guess, success in terms of my career, and have not had to compromise who I am or what my values are to accomplish those things. And thank you very much for acknowledging that.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Mr. Jackson. I am Sarah Rod, executive editor at Entertainment Weekly, and I want to thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm sorry we couldn't be together in person, but this is the next best thing. First of all, congratulations, Samuel L. Jackson, on your Legend of Cinema Award.
Thank you. Yeah. You know, always disturbs me to get labels like, you know, when I see things online when people go, legend, you know, or, you know, it's like, you know, legends are people who accomplish things that can't be accomplished by other people, or did something that's super extraordinary. You know, I just kind of persevered through hard work and, you know, doggedness to get where I am.
All right, I'm going to disagree with you instantaneously and say that you fit your description. You have done something that no one else has done. You have done a number of things that no one else have done. Yes, I know you're thinking about yourself in the box of being an actor, being an artist, but your body of work is unparalleled. And I think even you, in your very admirable humility, would agree with that. Your body of work is unparalleled. There's a reason that you're getting this award today. It truly is. You don't have to agree with me. I'm saying it is.
Okay, all right.
So accept the compliment.
Gotcha.
And then, but it is interesting, and you have reached a stage of your career having made, it's over 150 films at this point, right?
I don't know.
I believe it is.
I have no count. People don't believe me when I say that. I have no idea how many movies I made.
Well, I'm going to say it's 150 plus the last time I checked.
All right.
And so I'm curious, are you an introspective person in that way? Are you somebody that looks back over your work? Do you call up some of your past movies and watch them?
Only if I'm channel surfing and I can't find anything.
So what movies of yours do you always stop on when you're channel surfing?
I stop on Pulp Fiction for sure.
Mhm.
I stop on Jackie Brown because I love that movie.
Yeah.
I stop on 187 because it's not on that much. I stop on Coach Carter because I just like sports movies, and I thought it's a really great basketball movie. I stop on Deep Blue Sea if I haven't been killed yet.
Right. You know that there is somebody, an enterprising person online, has put together a supercut of all of your deaths. Have you seen that?
No, I have not seen my death tag. No, I got to see that.
It's great. Call it up on YouTube, and the Deep Blue Sea chomp
Yeah, it's always the best.
comes right in the middle. But I mean, when I was watching that the other day, I'm like, do you have a favorite on-screen death? And do you realize how many times you've died? You've died a lot in your movies.
I often think about ways that I haven't died and try to figure out if I can, find a movie where I can die in a way that I have not died yet. People get shot a lot and all that. I did a movie, I can't even remember the name of it, years ago when I was doing Do the Right Thing. I got a job as a convict that was going to the electric chair. And I went to Montreal to shoot it. And I'd always wanted to do that because I'd seen James Cagney and all these other actors walk the last mile. So I was looking forward to that. So I did that one. So that was great. So that's actually one of my favorite things to watch when I can find the movie and remember the name of it.
Right. So you've got a bucket list for ways you want to kick the bucket.
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
All right. So there's still work to be done here.
Totally. Yes.
We are talking to the SCAD community today, which is many students, and I have had wonderful experiences myself with them in previous panels. I know they're very interested in when they talk to people about your time in school. Are there times that you remembered because you studied you are a person who truly succeeded. You are doing what you went to school for. Are there lessons? Yeah. Are there lessons that you learned back then that stick with you still from the scene work you did in school?
Yeah, of course. We were very diligent and were encouraged from the beginning. If you had ambitions to be a professional actor, to go out and get real jobs. And there's a very successful community of people that came out of the acting program I was in. A lot of us. Famo is still working. Omalami, Bill Nunn used to be my roommate. We were together in the theater. My wife was there, Latanya, and there are a couple other people who have gone on to do various things and start theaters. I worked with Kenny Leon when he first got to Clark. He became part of our Atlanta theater community, and the lessons we got from Dr. Burroughs and Joan Lewis, our theater directors, in terms of developing characters. Simple things that allow you to have success. You study and you prepare. Or Dr. Burroughs would say, okay, rehearsal's at 7:00. That means that at 7:00, I'll be saying, action or start acting. You don't get there at 7:00. You get there at 6:30 and you warm up, you do all the things you need to do so that when it's time to go, it's time to go. And I work with so many actors who have no conception of being on time, knowing your lines, hitting your marks, being in the right place, upstage, downstage, things that directors shouldn't have to tell you because you have a toolkit. There are certain things that you need to know. It's like being a carpenter, measure twice, cut once. So you have a specific toolkit that allows you to be in a scene and take a dominant position when it's time for you to be dominant, or take a submissive position when it's time for you to be submissive. Those things carry you through cinema and everything else, because people are always saying, so what's the difference between being
Right.
a stage actor and a movie actor? You know, the difference is on stage, you got to talk to the person in the last row. So you talk loud. And in the cinema, you actually have a chance to whisper and nuance a scene in another way. But you learn to do that in another way when you're doing theater also, but you still have to whisper loud, you know? So
Right,
you learn
calibration.
things that allow
Calibration.
you to have gradations between what your performances are and what you want to do. Or like when I got to LA is the first place I ever met an actor that had never done a play. I was kind of like, well,
How are you an actor?
where'd you learn that? You know? And, you know, they were like the cutest person in whatever town they came from, and they won a couple of awards, and, you know, they'd said some speeches or sung some songs or danced in a couple of, you know, talent shows. It's like, oh, no. You know, so when young actors ask me, what is my advice to help them succeed in this business? I always say, you need to go to New York. That may have changed. That may have changed forever, considering the climate we're in now and what's going on with the pandemic and everything else. I don't know if theater is ever going to come back the way it was, or if it will ever be the same thing. But, you know, there's just something about being able to go on a stage and do something in front of some live people sitting there watching you that allows you to find out, can I do this or not? You know, because they let you know pretty quick. You know,
you find out who you are.
You feel the audience with you. They either flow with you or they're sitting there staring at you like, get this motherfucker off stage, please. And you hear the sighs, you hear the laughter, you hear the gasp, you hear all those things take you to a place that allows you to say, oh man, I can do this. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or you find out that you can't because you're having no effect on the people that paid their money to come see you do what you think you're doing. So that's
do the work.
Go to New York, learn to act.
Yeah, do the work. Even if it isn't New York, do the work in Atlanta, do the work in Chicago, do the work in LA.
Atlanta's got a thriving theater community. It always, you know, and we're partly responsible for that. You know, people like me, Kenny, LaTanya, Bill Nunn, we had theater. People going to the theater became a hip thing because they were our friends and they knew us and they liked it, and we were doing stuff that was kind of exciting to us and to them. But there's a vibrant theater community almost everywhere in the U.S. that you can go. I've worked in, you know, Louisville, Seattle. You know, I traveled around and did a bunch of bus and trucks before I got to this place. You know, so all those things mean something. You know, and they're fertilizer for what will help you grow as an actor.
Right. And community is another thing that I'm hearing from you too. And everywhere you've gone, you've had this community in school, in New York, in Los Angeles. And that community.
Don't say that.
Okay.
In a theatrical situation, there was a community in New York. Or when I went to an audition in New York and I knew, well, this job's not for me, but I know who is good for this job, and I'll call them. You know, they're having auditions for this thing, you know, and you should get your agent to get you in there or get in there. But there's a huge difference between when I was an actor in New York and that tight-knit community of people who, you know, walked from audition to audition together, or we did plays together, or we went to watch each other work, or we shared meals together. We pooled our money and ate together and did all these other things in terms of who we were and what we grew as a theater community. From what I understand, you know, you come to a place like LA where that didn't have that kind of community.
Right, it wasn't the same thing.
People see each other when they go to auditions, and all they become is sort of, well, not necessarily enemies, but adversaries.
Competition.
You know, yes, an adversarial, you know, thing. And their community is not as tight. And they don't go to unemployment together. Everybody goes to a different unemployment office. We used to go to the same unemployment office. So, you know.
I think when I was saying community for you in LA, I guess I misspoke. What I meant more is that you have gone back to the same collaborators frequently. And so I think of Quentin as being Quentin's world being one community, Spike's world being one community, not it being one overarching community. You have found people that are like-minded or creatively exciting to you that you have gone back to time and again. So I know that is not the same thing as having a community like you did in New York, but those are parts of your world that are exciting and interesting enough that you keep going back to those places.
Well, you go back to the directors or the creators, but not necessarily the same people that you're in the mix with. There are actors that you meet that you become friends with, that you stay in touch with over the years in a cinematic sense. That are very different from the people that I spent time with theatrically. I have a lot of friends here in LA that were my friends who were in New York. Some of them are successful, some of them not so much, but they're still my friends because we did all these things. We had these things together. There are people that you work with on a film that you only see for one day because that's the day they come to work. I've been that guy that shows up on one day to do a little small thing in the film or whatever. But there are also people like the haters from Hateful Eight. We have a chain. And
I love it.
And we still, text each other every week to say, where are you? What are you doing? Or somebody's talking to us, or we're commenting on the political situation here in the world or whatever. So that's like the strongest cinematic connection that I've had, ever working, through different things.
And you call them the haters.
The other day I haven't seen John Travolta in 15 years almost. And we didn't realize that till the other day when we saw each other. It was like, how long has it been since we saw each other? Jesus. And we're like, that. We're like tight.
Of course.
And I've texted him and kind of talked to him on a phone, but face to face, I hadn't seen him in like forever. And that happens when you're in this world or you're in another city, you're on location, and somebody else will be there working and they're there. So you'll get in touch with them or you'll be around the corner and say, what is that production over there? Who's that shooting over there? And they'll go, oh, that's so-and-so. Oh, man, let me go over there and talk. So you run over there to their trailer and you hit them up. But it's not a community that lends itself to being together all the time because people are always in different places doing, the things they do. And sometimes you're fortunate enough to be in a place where all that happens. It's like being an Avenger. I don't see those guys that much, but when I do, I see them, or I'll just be sitting around and thinking, oh, let me text Scarlett. I haven't, boom, 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 boom. So I'll hit her up and say, how you doing? I miss you. And she'll hit me back and say, oh my God, it's so good to hear from you. Or like me and Bree are in touch, once a week or once every other week. So I'm going through my Instagram and there's Bree doing something. I go, hey, what's happening? Blah, 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 blah. So I hit her up and she'll hit me back like, oh my God, I miss you so much. And I'm like, I miss you too. So
I love it. But I want to talk about that a little bit process-wise, from being the guy that was a day player that showed up to do one scene one day to a small part to being Nick Fury. I mean, there's a lot of steps between those two places, And I'm curious if your approach in choosing roles has evolved over the years. Obviously, choice is like the options that you have grow. So maybe you're more limited at the beginning in terms of options, but the way you approach things now, has it changed dramatically in the things that you choose to spend your time on now?
Not really. That's just thing that happens. There's a point in your career where you don't have choice, where you are just the actor and you take the job that falls out of the 4 auditions you went to that week. And you hope you get one, you get it, you show up, you do it, and then you start the process all over again. And I'm not real sure when that changed for me. When I was doing Amos and Andrew, and there had been these people that were chasing me, these managers, and I had an agent, I had a publicist. By that time, I'd been approached by a lawyer who wanted to represent me. After all the years of not having an agent, all this stuff started to happen. So I do. Jungle Fever gets me into Hollywood. So all of a sudden, here I am, and I'm in Hollywood, and people are saying, we want to give you this job right here. And I don't have to audition. No, we want you to have this job. So boom. But then I get there, and that's that job. I'm doing White Sands in New Mexico, and I get a call, and it's the Harrison Ford movie. Shit, what's the name of that movie? Not huh?
I just had it at the
Patriot
tip of my tongue when you said that. Patriot Games, yes, that's
Patriot
it.
Games. But they want me to come to LA and meet Harrison because he has cast approval. I don't even know what that is. But I know it means now. Somebody said, well, he wants to see if he likes you, if you eat with a fork, you know, if you eat with your mouth open, or whatever. So
exactly. Are you an a-hole?
And I go to the meeting, and he's just finished this movie with Bill Nunn. So I say to him, you know, hey, you know, you just work with my, you know, one of my best friends used to be my roommate, Bill Nunn, blah, blah, blah. Boom, over. I'm in. You know, I got that job. And I go back to White Sands and I do it. And then I start getting all these people coming to try and pull me to this place, to that place. And I had an agent that I'd had in New York, very small agency, a niche agency. And when I get to LA, I'm getting some scripts from them, but then I get approached by, you know, one of the big three at the time. And I was beefing with one of the people at my agency anyway, because all of a sudden I was making money and I wasn't getting my money fast enough from him. So,
all right to that.
So I switched agencies. And once I switched agencies, all of a sudden there was a publicist. I didn't even know what she did. You know, I was like, what do I need you for? You know, and
now like, you know.
I'm put you out there. I'm like, put me out there where? Doing what? You know, and how much is that going to cost me? And, you know, they said not much. And then I go out to do this movie, Amos and Andrew. And when I was doing Patriot Games, these people, these managers were chasing me. And I kept saying, I don't need to pay anybody else a percentage of what I'm making. So, yeah, right. And then they came to North Carolina where I was shooting Amos and Andrew. And they said, look, we just want to represent you. We want to take you to the next level. And I go, well, what's the next level? And they started talking to me. And then I said, well, how much is that going to cost me? And they said, look, whatever it's going to cost you, you will never know because we're going to make you so much money, you won't even know you're paying us. And I'm like, for real? How much money is that? I'm not going to know because I'm still that poor kid from Tennessee. I know how much everything costs.
Of course. Absolutely.
You know? And sure enough, I said, okay, well, let's just do a handshake deal. I don't want to sign anything. They were like, cool. And I'm still with one of those people that came to see me is still my manager, Eli. So
that's amazing. That's amazing, especially in Hollywood. But it's so funny that you mentioned Jungle Fever as a pivot point. That's the first movie I remember seeing you in when it came out. That movie had a big impact.
You didn't see
generally speaking. I did, but I wasn't. It's the first movie I remember seeing you as you. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that actor, like he's so good at that.
Yes, that was me as me. Gator was me as me. Cause I mean, I was like 2 weeks out of rehab when I did that movie. So I didn't need makeup and I was still detoxing.
Yeah, and it was such an impressive performance. And I was talking to my family about this the other night because Long Kiss Goodnight is our Christmas movie. We watch it every year. And we talk about Jungle Fever as remembering that's the first time. And it occurred to me, was there a palpable difference of you being Black famous and mainstream famous? Because I'm wondering, because of the Spike movies, if there were people that were like, that's the guy from the Spike movies before Pulp Fiction, which I assume was the big explosion point of being recognized.
Black famous and real famous.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Because, like I said, Billy and I were roommates. So when like Do the Right Thing happened or School Days, I mean, I could be with them. And, you know, Billy was famous and I was just standing there. People wouldn't know who the fuck I was. I'd just be standing there and I'd be like,
He's Radio Raheem.
Yeah. Well, before that, he was even, you know, in that, not Love Supreme, but what did it end up being called? With Denzel.
Mo Better Blues.
Mo Better Blues, when Billy was the bass player, John Carlo. I mean, all of us were like tight. So we hung out together. So I could be with them and nobody would even know who I was. They'd be talking to them like, oh my God. And I was like, wow. So that's like Black famous. That's what that is, right? So all that was happening. And by the time Jungle Fever happened, even that, when Jungle Fever went to Cannes, and I had seen Spike at a Knicks game prior to that, or even better, at the premiere for Jungle Fever. BET was there and they were interviewing people. And me and LaTanya was standing there, and LaTanya was like, well, aren't you going to interview Sam? And they said, we're only interviewing the stars. And, and, you know, she was like, well, shit, the movie was about you. It wasn't about them. I mean, that whole interracial relationship thing, yeah, okay, fine. But the movie is about you. You know, the movie is about Gator, you know, the person who's in everybody's family right now. Everybody had a crackhead who came to their house, stole their shit, or broke their heart, or did whatever. So one of the things about Gator was relatable. So when Spike first gave me that script, it was like Gator was another dude. But because I had been Gator in my life, I knew who he was. So I said, look, man, this needs to be about my relationship and how I fuck up every relationship that I have because I'm an addict. Mm-hmm. And he was like, well, okay, well, let's see how we can do that. So we started working on it and we did it. And, you know, I always laugh because I always say, that's the summer of dueling crackheads because New Jack City happened.
Oh,
and that was Chris. Chris was Pookie. He was the crackhead in that. I'm the crackhead in Jungle Fever. But everybody looked at Gator like, that's my cousin, that's my son, that's my brother, that's my uncle. That's, you know, everybody had a Gator.
A guy on the corner, even if everybody it wasn't on your family. Yeah, you know, absolutely.
So I became Black famous in that way to the point where when I came to California to do Patriot games, I was living with my aunt in Baldwin Hills. And this woman, a friend of hers, came to the house and said, girl, have you seen this Spike Lee movie? He got this junkie in there. This boy is a junkie. And, you know, he found him somewhere on the streets, blah, blah, blah. And my aunt was like, that's my nephew. And I was like, you don't know who I'm talking about. Not Wesley. The other, she was like, no, the junkie boy is my nephew. And I came right back and she looked at me and she's like, oh, you're not a real junkie.
But I'm telling you, that's the moment. So many people, when I talk about you, they're like Jungle Fever, Gator. It made such an imprint, and for the exact reason that you're saying. But then I feel like Pulp Fiction probably was the moment where it was just like,
see, that's another
everywhere.
Thing. So Pulp Fiction happens, right? Pulp happens while I'm shooting Die Hard. So I'm running around with Bruce, and we hadn't seen it. We were shooting when the Cannes Film Festival happened, and like I said before that, Spike had been to the Cannes Film Festival. Didn't take me. He took Turturro and Wesley and everybody else, and they end up creating a supporting actor award for me. The only one that's ever been given at the Cannes Film Festival. I have the best supporting actor, and that's because Whoopi was on the jury and she, you know, campaigned for me. And they made it happen. But I'm shooting this movie, and me and Bruce go to Cannes to watch Jungle Fever, and we'd never seen it. I mean, to watch Pulp Fiction, and we're sitting there watching it and realizing, wow, the audience loves this shit. This is great. This is dope. And Bruce is like, yeah. They love this movie, but people will know who you are, but you're not going to be famous. Your life is going to change when Die Hard comes out.
I love it.
What?
Your life's going to change when we're in the movie more together.
Well, no, because when Die Hard did come out, it was the highest grossing movie in the world that year. And all of a sudden, I mean, Pulp Fiction couldn't even be shown in certain countries because of the restrictions on it. But when Die Hard hit, boom, explosion, all of a sudden, you know, I'm that dude. I'm in the movie with Bruce Willis, and, you know, people love my character. Zeus is like popular. Yeah. And hitting it, and all of a sudden, you know, I'm an international figure. So
and what is that moment like, though? What is that moment like when you have the epiphany, I am an international figure? What does that feel like?
Well, you don't understand it until, you know, you're out there in the world and you're somewhere and you're in a place where you don't expect people to know who you are.
Right.
And I was in Tokyo, and I'm walking down the street with this studio exec, and I'm going, well, who's the most famous Black person in, you know, Japan? He's like, well, Will Smith. And I said, who next? He said, Eddie Murphy. And it's like, after that, and he's like, nobody. But as we're walking, Japanese people are like,
hey, Zeus.
I said, they know who I am. And he's like, what? I was like, look around you. people are recognizing me. They're pointing and they're, you know, but Japanese people are too polite to ask you for autographs, and nobody was asking for pictures then. Nobody had cell phones with cameras. That became the new autograph. But all of a sudden I realized, okay, I'm in a country and I'm not on TV or anything else. I don't have, but they know who I am because they've seen Die Hard and they love it, you know, and whatever. So that was my first realization. And when people started,
were you just tripped out though? Were you like even remotely like freaked out by that? Like obviously it's a wonderful positive thing, but
I'm that dude. See, I'm that dude that after like Jungle Fever happened, and I had been around Billy and Giancarlo and all these other people when I'm standing around people and they got recognized that I didn't. I was that person that like sometimes got up in the morning and went and walked around in New York to see how many people recognized me.
I love you so much.
You know, I wasn't afraid.
You don't
of
do that
you
anymore.
know? No, I was like good with that. I was like, who knows who I am? Yeah. And I was kind of pulling that in, you know. I mean, I kind of needed it, wanted it, and relished it in another kind of way because, I mean, that's what movie stardom is. When you look around, you know, you see it. And I'd seen Bruce walk around and be unrecognized by people, you know. So I've never been afraid to just be by myself. I don't have security. So when I leave a hotel, when I'm in London or when I'm anywhere, I go out by myself and walk around. I put my headphones on, or sometimes I'll have them on because I want to pretend I don't hear people calling my name, want to take a picture. But sometimes I do because I want some music. But I'm not afraid to be recognized or any of that. And it's part and parcel of what we do. You know, movies are different from the theater, like I said. In the theater, when you go to work at the theater every night, when you come on stage, you know if those people are enjoying what you do. Because they applaud, they sigh, they do things. When you're doing a movie, the only way to find that out is to pay your money and go to a movie theater and sit in the back and watch people react to that movie.
And you do that, right? You do that.
Yeah.
I love that you do that.
I love movies. I don't have that, you know, that old, you know, bullshit thing about, oh my God, I can't stand to watch myself on screen. Well, get another job. Because that's what it is. It's a look at me business.
Yeah, totally. So, but what's your relationship to that now? I am imagining it has grown exponentially. I mean, obviously in the last 7 months, this has not been a problem for any movie star. But people, I mean, I imagine there are people that come up to you on the street just yelling, motherfucker, because like they don't know what else to do.
You know, call me motherfucker. Can you call me motherfucker, please? And they had their phones on. It's like,
So, but how is that now? Because the volume must be larger. Or do you sort of?
I am left home. What do you mean? I am left home.
Well, not now, but
I left home in like 3 times since, you know, this is that.
But in the new world, like when we could be outside, like you're still comfortable with that. And can you tell when people are approaching you just by looking at them, what the first thing they're going to say is, like, which movie? Like it's an older black lady and you're like, this is an Eve's Bayou lady.
That's
or
the
this
time
is
to
a
kill
Pulp
lady.
Fiction.
That's always the time to kill lady.
It's always a time to kill lady. So you know as they're approaching.
It all depends on where you are. You know, it's like if I'm in Louisiana working and I'm in a grocery store shopping, they're shocked to see me, number one, that I'm in the store shopping. But people, you know, black people do, you know, black people shit. They like hit you and go, you know who you are? You know, I think so. You know, say, is that you? You go, I hope it is. I woke up thinking I was me this morning. You know, so it all, you know, it's that, you know, if you're in, like if I'm in London, you know, some people are trying to be sneaky and, you know, do it, or people want to take a picture. I go, just walk in front of me and take the picture. I'm right here, you know. Just go ahead.
Exactly.
You know, just walk in front of me, get your face in there, take the picture, keep moving, bye, you know. So I try to be accommodating. There are days I don't want to bother.
Sure. But either way.
And there are days that, you know, it's cool, but I try not to be rude. I don't want to be an asshole, you know.
Don't make you
overbearing. You can get cussed out.
And is there a number? Is Pulp Fiction still sort of number one, or is it switched to Nick Fury?
Oh no, no, it's still a Pulp Fiction world.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pulp is like the gift that keeps on giving, because every year there's a group of kids who become of age that they can watch it.
Right.
And all of a sudden they think it's the hippest thing they've ever seen in their lives. So I get, 6 million new fans every year that can just watch that movie. I mean, Nick Fury is one thing. Mace Windu, is another one. The people who are in the Star Wars world. So I belong to a lot of cult shit.
Yeah.
That keeps people coming and being part of it. So I have my Star Wars people. I got the Jurassic Park people. I got, the Marvel.
The Incredibles.
Who?
The Incredibles, Frozone. When kids hear you talk, do they ever be like, "Oh my God, Frozone"?
Well, that's how grown women with children introduce me to their kids.
It's Frozone.
It's Frozone. It's a super suit guy, and they go, super suit. So yeah, I have that group of kids too. So yeah,
I love it though. It's like you're like AC/DC. You just keep getting handed down to each next generation, or Led Zeppelin, or the Rolling Stones.
Yeah,
this stuff lives on, which is so amazing. And are there people that try to come up to you, just really quickly, because I'm a crazy Long Kiss Goodnight person, and I love everything about that movie, and I feel like it has been unfairly maligned over the years. Long Kiss Goodnight.
Oh, come on. Long Kiss Goodnight was the first kick-ass chick movie, and New Line had no idea what to do with it once they made it. Because Rennie and Gina had made these movies that weren't so. I mean, I like the pirate movie a lot.
Sure you did.
Sure you did. And I had tried to audition for Long Kiss because I'd read it and I kept saying, I want to audition for this movie, and New Line was like, nah, because they actually thought that was a whole romance thing written in the original script between Gina and my character.
Yeah, Marty.
I couldn't get an audition, and I was at a party, and I ran into Rennie and Gina, and I was like, "Why won't they let me read for your movie?" And Rennie was like, "You want to be in my movie?" I was like, "Yes." And he was like, "You have the job." That was it. Bam. Wow. And I went to Mississippi to do Time to Kill, and that was my next job. I went to Canada right after that, to do Long Kiss Goodnight.
It should have been an enormous hit. The number of quotable lines from that movie. We still say in my group of friends, continue dying, out.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You just walk into a bar and then sailors come running out screaming,
Absolutely. It's so amazing. So I just see it, but I wonder if there are ever people that come up to you for some of the smaller movies, for The Eve's Bayou, for Black Snake Moan, which we will be talking about in a minute. Are there people that approach you about this one was really special to me in a personal way? Because Eve's Bayou, I feel like, had a real impact in that regard.
Eve's was like one of the first Black women movies, that dealt with a whole family of Black women and what that dynamic was. I just happened to be around. It wasn't really about me; it was about them. And it's kind of awesome. It's kind of great to watch the growth of journey from a child to this person on Lovecraft. Just got
so good.
Now she's doing nude scenes. What's happening?
I know. Upsetting. But I know that the students before we started talking today screened Black Snake Moan, your Craig Brewer film, 2004, which is a great, essentially two-hander with you and Christina Ricci. And you have had the opportunity to work with so many great young up-and-coming actors. She was obviously famous at this point, but still very young. And what do you remember about that experience?
Wow, there's so many things. The story I was telling you before we started this about, my involvement and how it all seemed to be so serendipitous and kind of a road that was open that I just had to put my foot in and kind of go down. So like I said, I was in New York at a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame event and heard a voice in my ear saying, "You should play a blues musician. Let me teach you how to play guitar." And I turned around and it's this woman named Felicia Collins, who was the guitarist in David Letterman's band at the time. And I laughed and we talked for a minute. Then I came back, I went to the Academy Awards, and one of the gifts in the gift basket was a Gibson guitar. So I ordered it and I was shooting a movie, and in the middle of shooting that movie, the Black Snake Moan script comes and I read it and I'm like, wow, okay, crazy. And I talked to Craig Brewer, the director, and said, okay, I'll do it. Then I go back to New York to shoot Freedom Land, and Felicia does become my guitar teacher. So I got it, and I'm learning guitar the whole time I'm shooting Freedom Land. And right after that, I get Snakes on a Plane. So I go.
All these snakes.
Come on. So I go to Vancouver to do Snakes, and by then I'm carrying my guitar on a case over my back like I'm like a real rock guitarist. And the prop master on on Snakes on a Plane was like, so you play guitar? And I'm like, well, I'm learning for this movie that I'm getting ready to do next, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, how much do you know? And I showed him, and he's like, okay, let me teach you some stuff. And he was a master blues guitarist and a rock guitarist. So he starts teaching me all the things that I need to know to be able to play. And he teaches me the songs that I have to play because Craig and them send me the song. And by the time I get back to Memphis to start that movie, they're taking me to like juke joints in the Mississippi Delta to watch guys play, and sometimes, play with them, going to their houses, playing on the porch and doing stuff. So by the time we started to shoot the movie, I had a very more than rudimentary idea of how to play the guitar and what it would look like to be my own style guitarist. Right. So that was, it was just one of those things that happened.
Meant to be. Now, do you still play? Do you still ever mess around with the guitar?
Not often enough.
All right.
I lost everything that I learned because I got too busy doing other things. And I don't just walk around with instruments. It's too much to carry around.
You made 100 movies. You were busy doing stuff. Have you ever forgotten that you were in a movie, like been watching something and be like, oh, look, I'm in this? You just went so many.
Sometimes, I forget like little jobs that I did or this, that, and the other, like that movie with George Clooney and J-Lo.
Out of sight.
Yeah, because I'm in the last scene of that movie.
Now I need to go back and find you. I don't remember that. That's so funny. So you're
in the back of the truck with George Clooney when he's going to jail.
That's amazing that you've done so many. So, but are there, it's impossible to pick favorite parts, but are there favorite memories of roles that you have? Maybe even if it's not the favorite role, but you just had such a great time making the film?
I love Long Kiss. That's my favorite movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I love doing that movie. And it was like the most miserable thing ever because the average temperature on that movie was -37. Yeah. So when we were outdoors doing stuff, it's like that shot where we jumped through the train station window into the ice.
Yes.
We thought we were going to do that in the studio. But one day we get to work and they're like, we found the perfect place to shoot this shot. So they got the city of Toronto behind us and they cut a hole in ice that me and Gina have to go and get in.
Wow.
Either come out shot. And it was like, it's the worst feeling I've ever had in my life. We had to crawl across the ice, jump into this. They had a shallow like wading pool or something in it because of the lake had currents. We had to go under, count to 5, come out, and crawl across the ice and get out.
Wow.
Like we just.
You're like, I'm an actor. I can act this. Why are you making me do this?
Oh my God! It was like those ice cream headaches you used to get when you were a kid, or you drank some cold milk too fast, multiplied by like 30. It's like the brain was trying to get out of my head, going, "What the fuck are you doing, and why are we doing it?" And
this is just a bad idea. Yeah, that is so funny.
And Gina was so game to do all that stuff because she's married to Rennie, she's in love with him, so whatever he asked us to do, we had to do. So once she decided to do it, I had to do it too.
Yeah, the execution was great though. I want to talk about a couple more recent things though. One, just quickly, how did you get involved in the West Wing? That recent West Wing reunion. I saw you pop up there asking people to vote.
How?
Yeah.
Well, the number one way is my wife just finished doing To Kill a Mockingbird on Broadway, the era. So, she's been a part of that for a while. And, we know each other and they know of our activism and our willingness to be involved in things. And I couldn't do the reading of the episode because we're just not ready to share ourselves with a whole bunch of other people like that right now.
Sure.
So that was an easy thing to do. Aaron wrote it. I went into the theater by myself, socially distanced, did my reading, and that was it.
Yeah, it was a great special, and they had wonderful people part of it.
Mhm.
And then I wanted to talk quickly about Enslaved, which we recently talked about, which is something that all of you out there, if you want to watch something new that Mr. Jackson is in, it is on Epix. It is about the transatlantic slave trade. It has got personal stories. It has got historical pieces to it. And it seems like this was a real passion project for you and your wife, LaTanya Richardson, who is also an actress, for those who don't know. And I'm curious, what that experience was like doing it, and did it give you the bug to do more work like that, like more TV production, more series, more historical stuff?
Wow. When Simca, the director, came to me with the idea that that they identified these ships that were essentially slave ships that had gone down in the Atlantic slave trade, I was immediately intrigued because, in my mind, theatrically and kind of crazily, I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna find some ships, we're gonna find some shackles with skeletons and all this, not realizing it's been a while, dude. The ocean moves and stuff is gone. So we may or may not find stuff. But I was like, well, okay, I'm intrigued by it. And then at one point, they thought they had identified something that was close to Gabon, and I'd done my Ancestry.com thing, and I knew I was from the country, Gabon, because when we were shooting Tarzan, they kept inviting me to Gabon because they did all the plates for Tarzan there, because we never left London when we shot Tarzan. We had our own air-conditioned, bug-free jungle, which was like perfect. And they kept inviting me, and then I did my Tribal.com thing, and ends up, I'm part of the Benga, and they're from Gabon, so we incorporated that into the documentary of me, going back, because it was such a jumping off place for where the slave trade happened. And it was an easy kind of fit for me to do. And it was another excuse for me to go to Africa, which I love doing. I love going there.
Right.
It's awesome. So I shot in Africa a few times, which is great. I've shot in Johannesburg and I shot in Cape Town. And, Africans say to you, or Africans ask, have you ever been to Africa? I go, yeah, man, I've been to Cape Town, I've been to Johannesburg, I've been to Morocco, I've been to Egypt. And they go, no, real Africa. I'm like, oh my God, what is that? What is that?
It's a very big continent.
Yeah, what is that? So real Africa is where it's not like, everybody doesn't have electricity and all this stuff. Okay, fine. So having a chance to go to Libreville and to go to Ghana was, awesome. Being there too. So being able to tell that story, or an untold story, and to kind of enlighten the audience, or especially us African Americans, that we often think that, when people went to Africa and captured people and enslaved them, everybody was brought here. Right. We always say, well, all the slaves came. No, we're such a small part of where everybody went that, I wanted to put that out there to let the U.S. and the world know that a lot of people took part in what became, the transatlantic slave trade. It's not just us, and we can't just keep blaming, the white people here or the whoever there, but, all over the world, that's been happening, and still is in a lot of instances. So we didn't get to tell the still is part, and maybe that'll happen, who knows? But
I found it very moving, though. Was it a moving experience for you? I know that you had talked a little bit about it, also sort of illuminating your childhood Jacques Cousteau fantasies.
Yeah. Black Cousteau.
That was something that you were interested in. But did you find it just personally moving, learning this stuff that we hadn't been taught, that we didn't know about the transatlantic slave trade, especially in this moment when we are sort of talking about sort of historical wounds and historical trauma,
everything that goes on around us, and as much as we talk about progress, you look around you and you find we haven't progressed at all. It's like I watched the trial of the Chicago 7 the other day, and I remember being in Atlanta in college and watching all that play out, or watching the Democratic Convention that year and those kids fighting with those cops in Chicago, and what all that was, and the overarching theme of what's happening in the particular story that's being told, and realizing it's the same shit we're doing right now, and it's the same thing, and the same kind of conservative people are having the same ideas that they had then. And we're still fighting the same kind of battles that they were fighting then. So as much as we want to see or say that we're making progress, I mean, we're on a treadmill. We ain't going nowhere. So
so how do you,
now becomes even more important or more incumbent upon people to understand that the only power we have is our vote right now. It's not, we can't be in the streets. We can be in the streets, but they don't care.
Yeah, no, it's voting.
That reinforces everything that they want to say about their rowdy and they don't know how to run shit. But, they don't want us to be able to do things. They want us to appear to be savages that only know one way of getting things done. And we need to prove to them that we know how to do things the right way and to make change through policy and everything else. And we need to put the right people in there to make that happen. So
and you need to do it in your neighborhood, in your local councilman and your local sheriff. So we are both telling you to vote. I know nobody cares what I think.
The down ballot is way more important than, we need to get rid of the orangeness, but we need to work on the down ballot. All those people that make things happen. The people that you can talk to directly say, we want this done, we want that done, we want this law changed, we want that law changed. So those are the people that we need to focus on. Anyway, we digress.
Absolutely.
But after Enslaved, yes, I have other things that are happening. I have dramatic projects that I want to do, but I'm also focused a little more on, doing things that speak to our world in a way that makes sense. I was pitching a thing yesterday that are about gangs in the world that I'm focused on and doing it with my daughter, Zoe, who's also a producer.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Keeping it in the family business, which I also just want to say for those of you who may not have watched it and you want something to watch during this pandemic time, watch 100 Center Street with LaTanya Richardson. It is a fantastic show from A&E back in the day, and she plays a judge on it, and she's amazing in it, and you should watch it. That is my pandemic tip for you. And before we let you go,
produces RuPaul's Drag Race and RuPaul's.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Good for her. That's fantastic. People love that. So before we're running out of time, so before I let you go, I always like to ask people who have reached such an esteemed place in their career as you have, is there something that you know now that you wish you could go back to the person playing bit parts and work in a day job that you wish you could tell that person about the future? Like, what would you say to your younger self if you could go back?
I always tell myself that I need to exercise that patience is a virtue.
Truly.
And that things happen when they're supposed to happen. You can try and move the needle, but moving the needle generally means that you need to look into yourself and find out what's going on. It's like when I was watching, people leave, when I watched Denzel go, when I watched Morgan go, when I watched Fish go, when I watched Alfred go, when you watch people that you're around and you're in the right place because it's happening.
Right.
And you start trying to figure out, well, what about me? What about me? What about me? Well, for me, it was, well, maybe if you hadn't had that beer, smoked that joint before you went to the audition, your eyes might not have been red, or, you might not smell like alcohol, or you might have not been as on point as you thought you were. And you have to forget what all that is. Like, success came from me when I forgot about success.
That's perfect. That's the best advice. And we're going to end on that because it looks like that's all the time that we have today. But thank you so much, our Legend of Cinema Award recipient, Samuel L. Jackson. And thank you for everyone out there participating today. And thanks for supporting the art forms that make movie magic. And please, everyone, enjoy the rest of the SCAD Savannah Film Festival. Bye, y'all. Thanks, Sam.
All right, doll. Thanks.